Hello and welcome to your Platform 3 online walkthrough. I'm going to show you today how to log on successfully, how to upload your work for your assessor to mark, and how to access the learning materials in order to gain your qualification. So let's begin. First of all, we need to get to this website that I'm showing you here. You can do that by logging on to the email that you will have received from Course Beetle. And in that email, you'll have received a link to this website, platform3online.org.uk. You'll have also received a username and password by now, so go ahead and input those here and log on to the system. Now, I'd like to say at this point that you can change your password to something more memorable, and if you lose that, it's not the end of the world, so don't panic. Just email our admin team and we'll get that reset for you straight away. So log on here as a candidate and this will be your dashboard that you're faced with. Now, there's lots of lovely things to explore. The Communication Trust has built a wealth of knowledge and information for you to look through in order to gain this qualification. But for now, we're just going to get the boring admin side out of the way so that you can feel confident with uploading your work and where to find your materials. So, if we click in File Store, we can then go over here to Resources for Learners. Now, for Platform 3 qualification, you will have to do 3 units. 2 of those are mandatory and then 1 is an elective. So you'll, at a later stage, when you're well and truly into Unit 2 and flying through, your tutor will unlock the elective modules for you to look through. You can have a look through, choose which one you're going to do, and then the templates will be uploaded here and this is where you'll find them. But for now, we're going to concentrate on mandatory Unit 1. So if we click on the little cross here, it will open up and show you that there are 6 tasks, even though they're a bit jumbled up. There are 6 tasks in there to be completed in order to pass Unit 1. There's also, you'll see, a handy portfolio checklist at the bottom here. Now, what we recommend is at this point you create a folder on your own personal laptop or computer, whatever you're working from, to save these templates to be used on your own computer. So I'm going to talk you through how I would do that from my Mac, but it will be slightly different from a Windows system. So what I'm going to do first of all is in my documents, I'm going to create a folder for Platform 3. Click into it. I'm going to download my Unit 1 Task 1, which will go up here. And I'm just going to drag that in and save it to my Platform 3. As you can see it there. Now, I suggest you go through and do that for each of the unit tasks and for the portfolio checklist, just so that you have it handily there, so that you can access that at any time. If you double click on this, it will open up the Word document and it will form your template that you will use to complete the first task. Now, when you are happy with that, we will move on. When you come to look at Unit 2, it will be exactly the same. You click in here and you'll see there's only 4 tasks to complete for Unit 2 plus the checklist again. So I would suggest you go and do that for the Unit 2, either now or when you come to it. When you come to submit your work for your tutor to look at, you're going to be clicking on this plus sign here. You're going to open up Unit 1 and you're going to find the task that you've just completed. So your first one will be Unit 1, Task 1. So what you will do is you will click on that until it becomes this dark pinkish colour, and then you'll click on Upload Files, select Files, and then you'll find your work that you've done in there. You can click on it. What I would like you to do once you have come to do this task is we'd like you to save it as version 1. So when you're in your Word document and you've completed all of your writing within Task 1, we'd like you to save it as Unit 1, Task 1, V1 or version 1. I'll come to why that is in a second. So all of this work will be submitted into the right unit, and that just helps us from our point of view handling all the administration if it's named properly. So there might be a temptation to call it poster document, it would be really helpful if you could stick to Unit 1, Task 1, Version 1. Now, why do I say version 1? Well, that's because this is an extremely supportive process, and it would be great if you go through the tasks and they're exactly what you need to do, but the reality is that more likely it will be really good effort, but there might be a little bit of extra work that you might need to do just to hit all of the criteria, and your assessor will be really good at pointing you in that direction. They might say that's really good, but that last section could just do with expanding slightly. So what will happen is they'll send that to you on this area here, feedback from my tutor. Now that's quite a formal feedback form that our tutors have to fill out. It will say what you've done well, what you need to amend, if there are any amendments, and then you can go back to your document on your computer and change it. Make your changes on your document over here, but then when you go to resave it, we'd like you to call it Unit 1, Task 1, Version 2. Or V2, and then you save it back in here again in the same bit for Unit 1 Task 1, but then it will have Unit 1 Task 1 version 1 and Unit 1 Task 1 version 2, or however many versions you need in order to get to the point where you can create, where you can tick off all of the criteria, or where your assessor will tick off all the criteria. So that's really important in terms of showing the trail from where you were, what amendments were made, and what needs to be done. Then your feedback form will get updated by your tutor, and you'll know that you've cleared that task and don't need to do any more amendments when it clearly states this has met the criteria. It will now be uploaded to the portfolio. You don't have to worry about that task anymore. Tick it off in your mind, and you can crack on with Unit 1 Task 2, and that will be the same for each of the tasks. So over here is where you submit your work under Work for my tutor to look at. And over here, the feedback from my tutor, that is where you'll see what they have to say, whether you might need to just make a few changes, and whether you've met the success criteria. So that's all fantastic. And over here, you'll find resources for learners. So let's just close this down so it's not so busy. In Resources for Learners, here are all of the tasks, once again, and for each unit, and here are the printable user guides. Now this is the bit that we need to take a look at just quickly. Now, the wonderful people at the Communication Trust realise that some people really like to have a hard copy of all the learning materials and the learner guide, which is in a sense what I'm doing for you now, this walkthrough, and all of the information for Unit 1 and Unit 2. These are printable guides, so you can print them off if you want to and have a hard copy sat next to you whilst you're doing your tasks. It's a wealth of information, so feel free to look through that if you want to. However, just bear in mind that you don't need to use any of these in order to pass it, because we've got a much more dynamic way of presenting the learning materials to you, which I'll come on to in a second. So all of the information you could possibly want is in there if you need it. The great thing about Platform 3, and especially this system that we're using through Course Beetle, is that you will receive constant feedback for every single task. So you'll do one task, you'll receive feedback. So you can be sure that you'll know exactly if you're heading in the right direction, and draw on your previous learnings, rather than submitting a whole load of work and not knowing how you're doing and how you're progressing. So that's a really good thing. Right, so that's our printable guides, our resources for learners, our feedback for your tutor, and your work to look at. One last thing to mention is this Course Beetle Centre documents. Now, hopefully you won't need to use any of this, but we are we hold ourselves to a high level, and we, for our internal accreditation and quality assurance, we make all of these policies and documents available to our learners should they need them. However, we would suggest that if you've got any queries or worries, the first point of call is to contact your own personal tutor. But if they can't help you, then feel free to drop us a line at admin support, and we will help you with any queries and get back to you as soon as we can about anything like that. But all of the information is there for you to look at. Now, what we're going to do now is leave this boring bit behind, and we are going to go on to the learning materials, which is the information that you're going to use in order to learn and qualify and complete your Platform 3 qualification. So if you go ahead and click on Learning Materials, and you'll be presented with this grey box. Now, the first 2 rows are just boring admin things. You can have a look around them at leisure. It's absolutely fine. It will have criteria and checklists, so it's another place for you to access those if you want to. But the learning materials, and something we're going to look at now, is this Unit A. Unit A or Unit 1, it's interchangeable, and Unit L or Unit 2. These are our 2 mandatory units that we need to do, and here is where all of your learning materials to support your learning will be found. So go ahead and click on Open, and that will open up a pop-up. Now, here is where some people quite often run into a problem. If you were to click on this button and nothing happens, it may be that you have disabled pop-ups in your settings. So let me show you on mine. Mac, I would go to this, I would go to settings for this website in Safari, and enable content blockers must be unchecked. That would be slightly different on a Windows computer, but find settings, and then what you want to do is allow pop-ups to come through. So here, allow pop-up blockers to not be on. So try that, and you should be presented with this. Hopefully you won't have pop-up blockers on, and that won't be of any importance to you. Now, once again, we've got some portfolio tasks, and that's just some information that you can have a look through at leisure. But let's click on to the learning materials for Learning Outcome 1. If we click on this, you'll see that there's some rich content here. Sometimes it takes a couple of seconds to load because there's so much rich content. You can click through like this to learn, and up here are all the pages that you need to go through. Now, I'm not going to take you through every single one, but I am going to take you to tab 5. Okay. Now, this is a little check your learning checklist. I want to assure you that this is completely private for you. Your assessor will not see this. This is purely something to aid your learning, see how you're getting along, see how you're progressing nicely. And if you click on the orange tab up here, it will explain which learning criteria this is working towards. So you don't have to worry that this is going to go towards your final assessment. This is purely for you. And the other thing is that you can find this in the printable user guides we were looking at before. And it's sometimes quite useful if you yourself are in the future going to do a presentation to colleagues to be able to use this to see how they're getting on with your learning. So feel free to have a look through that. And then here we are at number 10. Now, if you've gone through all of the learning from 1 to 9 and you get on number 10, this is how you know that you are ready. You've observed all of that, absorbed all of that learning, and you are ready to complete your first task. So this will be presented to you, Portfolio Task 1. You click on the orange criteria, you'll see exactly what you need to do to meet those 2 learning criteria. And this is the point where you would go and find your Unit 1 Task 1 template and complete the task. And you can use all of the information that you've learned from all of these tabs to complete that. So this is what you'll have to do for task 1 for unit 1. Okay. So I'll leave you to look through those at your leisure, but those are the most important things for you to see. And then each time you come to another one like this, there's a grey box where it says task 1, task 2, you'll know that you've done the necessary learning to complete that task. So then go up here to this white banner and you'll see the word menu. Go ahead and click on that. Your unit progress will move along here for how far along the learning you've got. You've got all of your learning information for outcome 1, all from outcome 2 and outcome 3. We're going to look down here at this dark green box, unit resources. Now this is really useful if you click on that. Here you'll have links to websites which will help you further when it comes to doing your tasks, and they'll be linked to your different learning outcomes as well, as you can see there. And by all means, if you click on any of these websites and they don't work, feel free to drop us a line and let us know, because we can take that up with the Communication Trust, and they're really good at getting straight onto updating those for us for this learning portal. So go ahead to menu and that will take you back to here again. So that's where all of your learning materials are. Now remember that this is a pop-up, so you won't be able to press back indefinitely and get anywhere else. You can just go ahead and close that tab and it will take you back here. Now if you've been ages in that, it may log you out and you have to sign in again, but that's fine. But here on learning materials, you've got all of Unit 1 or Unit A, and it will show your progress going through that. And then here's your Unit 2, and you can open up here and go through that. And it's exactly the same. And then what you do is when you feel that you've got to that point where you want to upload a task, you come back here to File Store, you do your task on your own computer, save it as Unit 1, Task 1, Version 1. You would click on Unit 1, Task 1 there, so it highlights in pink. And you would click on Upload File here and attach it into that. Okay, I hope that's very straightforward. And then what will happen is your tutor will get a little notification to say that you've uploaded some work, or you can let her know in an informal way that I'll come to in a minute. And then you'll receive your feedback in this area in a form that you can go and look at to see whether you've met your criteria or if you need to do any more amendments. Okay, so that's all of that sorted, our learning materials and our final file store. A quick note to make about portfolio evidence. Now, if you come down here and press expand all nodes, it will show you that these are all of the learning outcomes you're going to be working towards for each of your tasks. Now, some tasks meet various learning outcomes. In a sense, you don't have to worry about any of this. Your assessor will be in charge of uploading and assigning your work to a node. Now what happens is this little padlock here will get locked every time you complete a piece of work that meets that learning objective. And what that does, and the reason I'm bringing you here to show you, is every time a padlock is locked, your portfolio progress will go up. Now this is what you want to keep an eye on. This will show you how close you are to completion. There is one note to make, however. Do you remember when I said right at the beginning that we would only have the 2 first mandatory units uploaded for you to begin with? Well, you'll be progressing nicely and you'll be thinking, oh, I'm doing really well, I'm right up at the top of my portfolio progress. When we unlock all of the elective modules, your progress will drop right down. But don't worry about that, because then when we lock those back up, you'll see that you'll be left with just the one that you've chosen, and that portfolio progress bar will go up again until we get to 100, when you'll know you'll have completed your qualification. So that's what we're aiming for. Right, this completion tab up here is completely for administration purposes. You can completely forget about that, and really you can forget about portfolio evidence for now. Just know that that is how your progress bar moves up. File store we've been through, learning materials we've been through, so I'm just going to finish by taking you back to portfolio menu, to this really important box here. Now, remember we said when we were in FileStore that you'll have a feedback form. Now that feedback form is between you and your tutor, and it's got to be set out in a certain way to comply with our quality quality control. And it's a more formal setup. It's got to really be not very chatty. It's whether you've met the criteria or not. Now this discussion box, this is going to be your informal chat box. This is going to be just between you and your tutor, and it's a great place to first of all introduce yourself and say hello. It's good for letting your tutor know, say, oh, I'm hoping to upload task 4 by Thursday, if you could have a look. It's good for saying, oh, I'm going away on holiday this week, so I won't be submitting anything till next week. Or your tutor might likewise say that they tend to do their marking on a Wednesday evening, or they're going to be away for the weekend, so they'll look at your work when they get home. That kind of thing. It's going to be an informal chat box. And it's also a good place to bring up any queries, any concerns, anything like that, and it's just between you and your tutor. So it's a really handy little box, and what I recommend you do following this walkthrough is log on straight away and just say hello, click in there, and have a little introduction to your tutor. Just say hello, and they'll get a notification to say you've left a message, and they'll reply as soon as they've seen that. So that's a good place to start. So yes, that completes our tour of Platform 3. And what I'll do is I'll hand you over to your tutor now. If you say hello in the little box here. The great thing about this walkthrough is that you can use it anytime you want. If you've forgotten how to do anything, just log back on to this walkthrough and go to the bit that you need a little bit of extra help with, and hopefully this will have you feeling confident about using Platform 3 moving forward. I wish you every success with your learning journey, and I look forward to seeing your completion bars move up. Okay, best of luck.